be telling you about anything. I can tell you about the Sydney Opera House. You can't see it. This is the Founders Monument. It commemorates the founding of Boston in 1630. And this was put up for the 300th anniversary of the founding of Boston, which would have been when? 1930. When will the 400th anniversary be? 2030, so in 5 years. So we better start thinking about it. In 1930, as part of the festivities, they had a ham and bean supper on the Common for 10,000 people. I don't think that's on the agenda this time around. But this depicts the arrival of the Puritans in 1630. In September of actually they arrived late summer of 1630, and here you see, well you could see if it were light, Governor John Winthrop, who was the first governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and you see behind him a minister holding a Bible. Young woman over here, there's a soldier, another young woman, people blowing the boats ashore, and here you see some native people, and here Governor Winthrop is being greeted by another Englishman who's already here. The Puritan expedition, 1,100 or so people came. It's one of the largest of these expeditions, and we'll talk next time about who the Puritans were. They knew about this area. They had been given a charter to settle, actually to trade between the Merrimack River and the Charles and the Neponset River, 3 miles north of the Merrimack to 3 miles south of the Neponset. And something like 11 ships came to Dorchester, what it becomes the Shawmut Peninsula where we are, Charlestown, and Watertown. And they also settled Roxbury at the same time. So you have these 1,100 or so folks come. There was an English guy living here on the Shawmut Peninsula. The Massachusetts people, the native people in the area, the name Massachusetts means people of the Great Hills. They're the Blue Hills south of Boston. They would go there in the winter. In the summer, they would come here to the harbor. They would harvest fish, shellfish, other things, and then they would go back up into the Blue Hills in the winter, and they let Reverend Blackstone stay. He was a minister of the Church of England, and he had come here with another expedition in the mid-1620s that went to a place called Wessagusset, which is now, anyone know where Wessagusset is? Weymouth. And that expedition fell apart. And the Reverend Blackstone decided to stay here. He had a house just over that way a little bit. The water was right down there of the back bay. And there's a stream up here. The stream still runs. If you go up the street a little bit, you can hear it underneath one of the manholes. And Reverend Blackstone traded with the Indians. He had a white ox. He liked to ride around naked and otherwise just enjoyed himself here. He had his books, and what more could anyone want? And then the Puritans arrived in 1630 in the summer. And they, a couple of the Puritans knew the Reverend Blackstone. They were camping out over in Charlestown, where there was a building remaining from an earlier expedition. So they set up shop there. A couple of these Puritans come over to this side to visit with the Reverend Blackstone. They tell them how bad things are in Charlestown. A lot of mosquitoes when it was late summer. No really good water. Also, beginning in the 16 teens, the native population had a series of plagues which killed a lot of them, meaning there were not enough people hunting deer. And with the proliferation of the deer, there was also a proliferation of other predators like wolves. And these really genteel English folk who came mainly from Lincolnshire and East Anglia. And actually we have someone from Lincolnshire here with us. And the Reverend John Cotton, whom we'll be talking about, was the minister at St. Botolph's Town, or Boston, in Lincolnshire. And a lot of them had been disciples of the Reverend Cotton, who stayed in England. And anyway, these Puritans tell Reverend Blackstone how bad things are. Here he says, well, mosquitoes aren't so bad. This is kind of an island, so we don't have so many wolves. Plus, we have good water here. In fact, Shawmut, the name of the peninsula, means place of living waters. So you should come over here. So they do. And they bring over 600 other Puritans with them. So suddenly the Reverend Blackstone can't ride his ox around naked or do other things like that. So he says he left England because he didn't like the Lord's bishop, that is the guys who ran the Church of England. He said, I don't like the Lord's brethren any better, so he took off for Rhode Island, leaving the Puritans here in control of the Shawmut Peninsula. Two fun facts I want to tell you about this particular monument. One, we have pictures of John Winthrop. Puritans thought it was a sign of vanity to have your portrait done. So very few of them had their portraits done. It's also expensive. Winthrop, we have a portrait of him. We know what he looked like. No one knows what the Reverend Blackstone looked like. So in 1930, when the sculptor did this, he used as his model James Michael Curley, who was mayor of Boston, one of the most powerful, colorful, and memorable political characters in Boston's history. And Curley made his entire political career running against the descendants of the Puritans, the Brahmins, making fun of them, mocking them. And here he is greeting the Puritans, welcoming them to his town. So that's one fun fact about the monument. The other, as we go around to the other side, we have a quote from John Winthrop's speech to the Puritans before they left Southampton. The Reverend Cotton gave a sermon to them to bid them farewell, and then Governor Winthrop gave them a sermon, which is called The New Model of Christian Charity. For we shall consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all people are upon us, so that if we shall deal falsely with our God in this work we have undertaken, and cause him to withdraw his present help from us, we shall be made a story and a byword through the world. We shall cause the faces of God's worthy servants to turn in shame, and cause their prayers to be turned into curses upon us, till we be consumed out of the good land whither we are going. It's a warning to them. You hear the phrase city on a hill, you think the idea is everyone's watching us with admiration. Everyone's watching you, waiting for you to screw up, which inevitably you will. This is in essence the Puritan idea, that we are all going to fail. So Winthrop's new model of Christian charity is a warning. And then we have a line from William Bradford, who was the second governor of the Plymouth colony, about thus out of small beginnings, greater things have been produced by his hand that made all things of nothing. And as one small candle may light 1,000, so the light here kindled hath shown to many, yea, in some sort, to our whole nation. It's great. And then the final quote is James Michael Curley. In gratitude for God for the blessings enjoyed under free government, the city of Boston has erected this memorial on the 300th anniversary of its founding, September 17th, 1630 to 1930. Okay? So, three notable quotes: Winthrop, Bradford, Curley. That's essentially Boston history right there. Any questions on any of this? Okay. I will let you go at this point.